Hello, welcome back to another episode of D54. My name is Amit, and today I'll be talking to you guys about the first episode of the recent web series that came out to Z5, Manorathangal. I'll be covering the episode called Olavum Theeravum. You would have seen this, guys, in the trailer. It's the black and white one with Mohanlal. It's actually the first episode of the entire series. And it's also the longest episode. Longest by, I think, by far, to be honest. I've seen a few episodes, and to me, this episode has stuck out the most so far. And I really want to just come on here. I know I'm a bit late to the party here, so apologies. A few things have been happening, but I really wanted to come here and talk to you guys about this episode specifically because watching this episode was such a treat. I really enjoyed watching this specific episode, and I think it had a lot to offer. And I want to compare it with two other movies that I've seen pretty recently, I would say, which... While I was watching this, I was thinking of these two movies. I was thinking of the movie with Hayan and the movie Ponaton Mara. And I'll get into that a little bit as to why I was thinking of those two movies while watching this movie. But before we do that, guys, I do just want to give a quick message. And if you're someone that listens to me frequently, then, I apologize because I've said this for maybe the third or fourth episode now. But there is a situation in Kerala at the moment, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, in the region of Wayanad. As landslide's been hit. Really bad situation, and it's still pretty bad. I got an update from my friend Bibin. I asked him what the situation was like, because if it was better, I would have probably, taken my foot off the pedal a little bit and said, okay, fine. Things are getting better now. I think people are well sorted, but it seems like the situation is still pretty bad at the moment, guys. So I do just want to share some details on the screen right here. A lot of devastation. A lot of people have lost houses. I hear that people that have lost their houses and their place of residence have now been relocated to government property for now. That's good, but obviously it's a temporary solution. Kids have been moved to orphanages, which is heartbreaking. Really bad situation. I can't even imagine what I would do if my house was just to freaking just collapse and I wouldn't have access to it. It would ruin my entire life, literally. So people are going through some pretty tough times right now. So I just want to share some information, guys. If you know anyone that's going through anything that's pretty difficult right now, please share these links. Please share this information. I've put them available on my video. You can just take screenshots of them and share them as you like. If you need me to send you a copy of them, let me know. I'll do whatever I have to help this situation. But yeah, thanks again for persisting with me and letting me talk about this stuff. But on to this episode, Olavum Theeravum. So the episode starts a little bit differently because I think it's the first episode they introduce a little bit about what the show is going to be about, the anthology series. But really, it's more about the background of the writer. It's more about M.T. Vasudevan Nair and his 9 stories. And so Kamal Hassan is, as I thought, as a narrator. Interesting choice. I don't know what his relationship is with M.T. Vasudevan Nair and how come he was chosen, but I'm not complaining. It's pretty good to see somebody, I guess it's kind of cool to see someone outside the industry and someone, as well respected as someone like Kamal Hassan is in the South Indian film industry, in the Indian film industry in general. To see him sort of come along here and just basically, help out in some small capacity as a narrator. So he gives us a little intro about sort of what this episode is about. And the first thing that's really striking to me about this episode is that this is the one that's in black and white. Now, the black and white looked beautiful. It was cool to see that. But as I was watching this movie, I was wondering, why is it in black and white specifically? Why was this this short movie, I guess, chosen to be in black and white as opposed to regular color? I don't know if it's meant to convey the time period of the film or the time period of when this is meant to happen. There were some parts I was a little confused by as to when this was actually taking place because they use a different form of currency as well, which I wasn't too familiar with, I think. That's one thing. So I wasn't too sure if it was to do with the time period, but there was another thing that I also know that there's a movie with the same name as this Olavum Theeravum. But that movie was out in the 60s or something like that. It was a really old movie. Obviously the book itself was written in 1957, as I'm just reading here. And the remake there's a 1970s film adaptation of that. And that's a full feature film. That's 2 hours long. Obviously, I saw it on YouTube, but I couldn't make heads or tails of it because there's no subtitles or anything like that. But I'm guessing it probably goes through the same theme and the same story that this short story is doing, and this is just condensed a little bit more. Might have been for the theatrics of it to make it look a little bit more, something unique. But I also loved how it had this red accent with the bangles, which proved to be such a big point in this sort of story. Spoilers ahead, guys. I'm going to be, talking about this short movie, basically with spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to check it out. If you don't, that's also fine. Look, the story in this is not super complex. It's one that you've probably heard of and probably are familiar with. I'm not sure if MT Vasudevan Nair is some, like his stories are taught in schools or something like that. I would love to know more information about him. I do know I did get a pretty good post a while ago telling me about how renowned he is and how big of a deal he is in Malayalam cinema. And that's great to see. I would love to see some of his full feature movies. This, I feel, is a good intro to, his stories, his style of stories, what he's trying to express in his stories and all that. But obviously this movie is one that features Mohanlal. He's the main, protagonist in this movie. And he does a fantastic job, as always. I mean, this is something that I think this kind of role, I think, is something that he just does in his, sleep. He can sleepwalk through this kind of thing because he does it so naturally. Someone as accomplished as him can act so naturally without even trying, it seems like. He makes it feel that way anyway. It also reunites Mohanlal with Priyadarshan. Now, I've seen a few Priyadarshan movies, I think, but this is a short film of his. I don't know if I've seen any movies of his which are super serious. Priyadarshan, to me, from what I've seen, the very few movies I have seen, are ones that are more comedies in some way. So they're not really the same kind of movie that this was, which was a thought piece. It was giving us themes. It was giving us, it's giving us things to talk about, such as power struggle, such as taking your opportunities when you have them. I've always associated Priyadarshan more as a rom-com kind of guy for Malayalam cinema. But look, that might be me, and I'm not seen enough of him. He's obviously done a lot of Bollywood stuff as well, or he's been credited for that because he's a lot of his movies get, remade from what I understand. So it's fascinating. But yeah, onto this movie. The story is pretty simple. It's basically about someone that's coming to visit somebody and he falls in love, essentially. Love at first sight or whatever you want to call it. There's a bit of resistance at the start, but quickly they fall in love. And then it's Babuti, Mohanlal's character, who's basically at this point trying to make plans to leave the place with his new love. There's rumors floating about sort of, what society thinks of the mother and the daughter that he's in love with. And there's another character that comes in between as well, who sort of puts a wedge between them, who's I don't know if he's a higher caste or something, but he's a well-to-do, high-profile man in the society, in the small village they live in. Now, I want to get on to why I was thinking of the two movies that I mentioned, Vidhayan and Ponathan Mara. I've seen those two movies recently, and they also kind of explore this theme in different ways, this theme of power and how it affects a relationship. In both those movies, basically a marriage. Or I don't know if Ponathan Mara was a marriage, but it was a relationship that had formed. And, that was of people from a lower class who then are basically bullied by an upper class person. In Vidhayan, it's Mammootty's character, who basically takes the guy's wife, for him. And then this is the part I really want to discuss with you guys, and that's why I wanted to talk to you guys about this one. Was in those two movies, it seems like the characters who's had their wife taken away from them, are so obedient, and they just let it be. They're just okay, fine, this is my life now. This is how things are going to be for me because they're from a lower caste or because they're slaves or something like that. I never really could get my head around that. It was Vidhayan is such a weird experience in that way. I found it such a strange movie to watch, and that concept was hard for me to grasp, to be completely honest. So I did want to talk about that because this sort of leaned into that a little bit in sort of when this new character comes in. He's basically yep, I'm here to take this woman. She's going to be mine, essentially. And there's a traumatic scene towards the end, and it's a heartbreaking ending as well. But I did like this movie, how it switches it up a little bit. And while there are moments where Mohanlal's character, Babuti, sounds a lot like Mammootty, but the character named Babuti, he is essentially in a situation where he is gone into his shell a little bit. He decides not to pursue the woman for some time, until all of a sudden he decides to, make a plan to escape, and then tragedy befalls them. And then, we have the worst thing that can happen to a woman. essentially, and we have that. Basically, yeah, you guys can fill in the blanks if you haven't seen it. I don't really need to spell it out anymore. But something really bad happens. And then the part that really got me interested was then Mohanlal's approach to then go and see her. You know, he's realized something's gone wrong. And then when he goes and sees her, yeah, it's pretty tragic. But there's a resistance in this situation. So unlike those other two movies I mentioned, where the power dynamic is more like, you know, it's almost like, you know, the master is on top of the lower member all the time, and the lower caste, lower status guy doesn't have any chance to even go up and actually do anything about it. In this situation, like, Mohanlal's character does confront him and actually has a fight with him. And I think he spares his life in the end. He doesn't kill him, but he gets very close to it. And then basically he goes and sees the woman. And then at the end, we see those tragic banglets, the bangles floating on top of the river, basically implying what's happened, a tragic ending. So very, very hard hitting ending. But I did like that this movie was a little bit refreshing for me to see that side of things. I want to keep exploring this theme to try and understand how it works. Because yeah, it is one that fascinates me as to how this thing, the power dynamics and how it impacts, you know, basically relationships, marriages, and gets in the way of love. So there's other themes I'm sure that are also at play in this sort of short film. But it does feel a bit, you know, Shakespearean. It is from the 1950s, so it does have a little bit of that. I'm not saying that he based his novels off Shakespeare or anything like that. I'm just saying the feeling is somewhat similar to me. But yeah, that's really all I had to say about this series, guys. There wasn't too much more. I wanted to keep it quick. It's about a 30-minute. No, this one's about 50 minutes. I have seen some of the other ones as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing reviews for those because I just didn't feel that they had that much impact. I did like the Mammootty one quite a lot, the one where he goes to Sri Lanka. I thought that was a really good one. Unfortunately, it was just a little bit short, but I did like that one because apparently that one was kind of autobiographical. So Mammootty is actually I think he's playing a version of MT Vasudevan Nair in that movie. It was also really good, and Mammootty did a really good job in that one. But yeah, it was just so short. But the story in that one was really powerful. I think just as powerful as Olavum Theeravum, to be honest. But unfortunately, it was just half an hour. It was really short. And I feel like it could have had a bit more impact if we had actually seen, I guess, Mammootty's character's estranged stepsister in the end there. Would have been a bit more powerful then, I think. But anyway, it still served its purpose. Other ones, I didn't really get moved so much by some of them. I did watch the Fahad Fasil one, Sherlock. Yeah, look, I didn't really like that one that much, to be honest. I understood what they were trying to do, explore like sort of the loneliness of the, you know, the immigrant or the foreigner that's come to a strange land and the difficulties of that. I just really didn't like how Fahad Fasil's character really had an issue with the cat. And I have two cats. I love cats. Cats are very important and very special to me. So I couldn't get over that. And also I didn't like how they declawed the cat either because of furniture. It kind of made something inside me really upset when I heard that. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy that one too much. Of course, Fahad Fasil was great, like in that. There's no doubt about him pulling off a performance. That was great. But otherwise, I just didn't feel that one that much, to be honest. I don't know what it was about that, but it just did not click with me. It was a bit too... I feel like that one had an opportunity to be a bit more endearing. But of course, these are based off short stories. So, you know, maybe the story is not really uplifting. A lot of the stories, to be honest, that I've seen so far are really sad. So it is kind of difficult to watch these sometimes. And that's why watching them back to back to back, I feel like you're kind of going through a few themes which are kind of similar. Like there's a lot to do with women's oppression, a lot to do with sort of power dynamics. Even the other one I saw with Asif Ali, which was very interesting as well, which I didn't mind. But that also has, again, it's got to do with, power dynamics once again, and about a wife who's basically not really lived a fulfilling life there as well. So there are some similar themes across the board, and maybe that's what ties everything together in this. But yeah, guys, let me know if there are other ones that I have not seen, which you guys would recommend. They're the four I've seen. I've seen Olavum Theeravum. I've seen the Mammootty one. I have seen the Fahad Fasil one, and I've seen the Asif Ali one. If there are other ones you guys have seen, and you guys would suggest me to watch, let me know. I would love to check them out, and I might do a second round, and I'll just cover off the rest in that. But as for now, this is my review for Olavum Theeravum. That's really all I had to say, to be honest. I didn't have too much more, but hope you guys enjoyed this really quick one. I normally do longer deep dives, but this time I'm going to keep it really quick. Thanks again for listening. I appreciate your time, and I will see you guys on the next one.